The following is a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys, paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys. The Siniard Law Show, answering your legal questions, featuring attorneys Tommy Siniard, Bart Siniard, and your host, Aaron Dacey. This is the Siniard Law Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Siniard Law Show, where we invite your legal questions and educate you on various areas of the law. Siniard Law is a father-son personal injury firm right here in the Tennessee Valley, focused on giving back to the community through legal education. Siniard Law has again received recognition as a Tier 1 personal injury litigation firm by Best Lawyers in America. Bart Siniard is on the list of Best Lawyers in America 3 years running. And his father, Tommy Siniard, has more than 3 decades of recognition by Best Lawyers in America. Tonight, we're discussing holiday season injuries with Tommy Siniard and Barnes Heyward. Gentlemen, good evening. So what are some common holiday season injuries?
You know, it's kind of crazy, Aaron. There's things that happen during the holidays that don't happen any other time. And it mostly has to do with homeowners questions. Barnes, take us from there about what you see in the holiday period that is different from the rest of the year.
You know, a lot of it's weather dependent, and so we see a lot of homeowners claims related to cold weather and water damage claims from pipes bursting, and of course, you know, we have occasional bad windstorms pop up, and so people just have all sorts of problems that for some reason only pop up during the wintertime, and so we get an influx of calls about claims against people's homeowners coverage. And so that's something that, you know, Tommy, we handle a lot of in our firm, but they can be very frustrating claims and situations for people to go through. You know, our firm is handling a lot of roof-related claims
from
related
the May 20th tornado.
The May storm, and you just wouldn't believe some of the stories that we hear about homeowners carriers coming out to inspect roofs or promising to come out and inspect roofs and not showing up to do it. But the majority of those claims we see denied right off the bat. And only after we get involved do the insurance companies come around and start paying some of these claims.
Yeah, I think out of the debacle of May 20th, we took on, which is not our main avenue, but out of sympathy, we took on 28 roof cases. We have 9 pending, and we have settled or won 19.
Wow.
So the denials are just ridiculous.
Do they just do that off the top, just hoping you go away?
Yeah, there's a certain fraction of people that are just anti-litigation. And, you know, the roof claims between $20,000 and $30,000, they think that's something I can absorb. Or if I'm going to have to get in the courtroom to get this money, I'm scared of that. So it's just wrong, and it's widespread. And I won't call the name of the 2 companies, but 2 major insurance companies account for about 80 to 90% of the denials. It's a pattern, it's a practice, and we've considered a class action suit.
That's what I was going to ask.
Because there's a lot of people
flagrant.
Similarly situated. The other influx we see in the holidays is impaired driving.
Yeah.
You know, parties and it's hard to express what havoc and mayhem can occur with the distracted or intoxicated or impaired driving. You never go out intending to do anything but have fun. But, you know, I remind people that if somebody dies in a car wreck and you're intoxicated, it's now just not a bad day at the wheel. It's murder. It's vehicular homicide. If they don't die, it's vehicular assault, which is a felony. And so you really, really got to beware of drinking and driving or taking drugs and driving, because I'm going to say more than half of all drunk driving lawsuits come between December 31 and January 2nd.
And it's so easy today with our cell phones and with rideshare apps like Uber. It's so easy to just get on your phone,
Not behind the wheel.
Click that, that's right.
beforehand.
Click that button, have somebody come pick you up. Even if you've just had a couple drinks, they've had that whole campaign about buzz driving is drunk driving. And I think the point behind that is why even risk it? Why? It's so much easier just to bite the bullet, pay $12 to get a ride home, and then figure it out the next day.
Yeah.
And I guess too, texting and driving, that's the same thing, right? I mean, I'm going to be late to the party, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is serving alcohol to guests and where the law has gone in that regard. And I get asked that a lot.
I think we've got a question about that. Tonight.
It's remarkable what you need to know to have a party. And a lot of people like this with lawyers, but when you see the outcome of over-serving somebody and them killing somebody or maiming somebody.
And it's important that you can, the insurance claims or whatever, you can schedule a meeting with Siniard Law to find out if you actually have a case. So those people who are intimidated by lawyers, it's not going to cost them anything to come talk to you.
Yeah,
that's right.
And circling back to that really quickly, with homeowners claims in general, and we don't need to spend too much more time on it, but it's really important that people document damage and document it immediately so that you can establish exactly when the damage occurred, take photographs of it, and then at your earliest convenience, it certainly call someone like us, but even if you're not doing that, have a professional come out and look at the damage so that they can create their own report to document it. And then we can use that later on to fight with the insurance company.
One of the craziest things in a homeowner's policy is that the homeowner has a duty to mitigate or minimize their damages. So let's suppose you got a tree through your roof. They actually have an exclusion for damage you don't mitigate.
So you should have taken the tree down ahead of time?
The onus is on the homeowner to do everything they can to minimize the continuing damage, which may include removing a tree on their own dime. And that's a sneaky little provision that's etched on page 48 as an exclusion. I've got a case that's a roof case that they're using that very defense because the continuing damage was more than the initial roof damage. And the people didn't know. And they came to us after all this continuing damage occurred. So that's a good thing to know.
Well, we do invite you to share your legal questions on any topic of the law. Just email us at questions@siniardlaw.com or call us at 844-7000-LAW, and your question may be featured. Now to our legal tip of the week, reviewing your car insurance policy going into 2026. This is good anytime, but it's just a good marker, right? We
First
need to make a New Year
resolution.
resolution.
Not just car insurance, but all insurance.
Yeah.
The insurance is a moving target. The policy, you can buy this policy today and 6 months later, they would send you these, quote, endorsements, which changes their obligations under the policy. And so, plus the premiums go up. What I suggest to people is buy more insurance than less, particularly uninsured motorist coverage. That's why it's important to review your car policy, your limits. So let me break this down. If Erin Dacey runs the red light and hurts me, she's got a certain policy limit for her liability. The minimum, if you buy insurance at all, you've got to have $25,000. That'll get a broken finger fixed these days. So that's inadequate for somebody with means or assets. So the onus is on the buyer of the insurance to increase your limits. They don't really push or promote higher limits because they make the most money on the minimum limits policies.
Really?
Yes, because their obligation to pay out is thin. So the premium versus the coverage is the highest in that first $25,000. Buying $25,000 to $100,000 of coverage is not like it's going to be 4 times higher. It might be 15% higher.
Really?
And going to $1 million umbrella, people like, I sure as heck can't afford that. $1 million umbrella might be $300 a year, depending on a lot of factors, $300 to $750. So if you cause a collision and hurt somebody, their claim is against you. And if there's inadequate insurance, they can go after your assets. My daddy, who never went to college, as I was gaining some assets, said something that I still use. It's one thing to get money in the front door, but if you're going to keep it, you better lock the back door. And that's sage advice. And I urge people at the first of the year to go over your coverage. You can also shop your coverage.
Yep.
And you can find better deals, better rates. Sometimes.
But how do you know then if the coverage is as good or if they're going to pay the claim?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so.
Like, I don't want to bargain insurance if I call them up and I get one of the insurance companies you're talking about, oh no, we're not paying for that.
Well, you got to defend the case in trial instead of them paying the claim. Mm-hmm. So, we can give cues on that as to what companies are most likely to pay claims. I'll jump out there and get in trouble. We have found the Alabama-owned and operated insurance company, Alpha, is not only more than competitive in premiums, but they're more likely to pay a claim that you caused. And so that's a plug nobody asked for. But that's, 45 years of experience. It hadn't always been like that. But as of this time, I would say check Alpha and compare it to the other major carriers.
Yeah, coverages are important. It's also really important that people look at is everybody that I want to be insured, are they insured under the policy? Are all the members of my family that I need to be insured, are they insured? Tommy can tell you this, we see this all the time. And I've seen head scratching cases where a wife takes out a policy and lists her husband as an excluded driver. Not on purpose, mind you. Oftentimes it's because they're applying for the insurance online and rather through an agent who can help guide them through the process and say, hey, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that everybody in your household is included under the policy. But check those things with life insurance policies. Check beneficiaries that may need to be updated. And so now is a great time of year to just be reviewing all of your policies and making sure it's what you need.
It's one of those things I do the first week of the year. Like, it's not a New Year's resolution, it's a New Year's every year thing.
Yeah, like changing the batteries in your smoke alarm. Let's go ahead and get to our viewer questions. This first question tonight comes from Valerie. She says, I'm in charge of planning a Christmas party for my office this year for 50 plus employees and customers. I hired bartenders to serve wine and beer and a Christmas cocktail. I'm worried about what happens if someone has too much to drink and decides to get behind the wheel after our party. Can my company be held liable if someone drinks and drives and causes a wreck? We touched on this a little bit earlier.
This is a fascinating question. So what we referred to that as social host liability or business host liability. So let's start first with social host liability. Let's suppose you're having a Christmas party at your house and you have a bartender that overserves the patron or, God forbid, serves a minor. So for a minor, you're absolutely liable if that minor himself or herself gets hurt or they cause harm to other people. The social host liability, Barnes, take it for me.
Yeah, so, we have a dram shop statute in Alabama, and the dram shop statute, it applies to licensed vendors, so people who are actually selling alcohol, and that could be a liquor store, it could be a bar, it could be a restaurant, but it's a little bit broader in what you can be held liable for. So for instance, if an adult, someone who's over the age of 21, comes into a bar and they're visibly intoxicated, and then that bartender continues to furnish them with alcohol, then that bar and that bartender can be held liable. But if you're not a licensed vendor that's selling alcohol, you're just hosting an event, you're furnishing it as a social host, then it's a little bit narrower. So that same adult who is overserved and goes and causes a wreck, you may not be liable for that. Flip side of that is,
you may be liable for it.
Well, you may be, but you certainly will be liable if somebody brings an underage drinker to that event and knowingly or unknowingly, you end up serving them alcohol.
I've actually had to sign a release when I went into a company Christmas party. How does that?
Yeah, I'm curious too here with the bartenders that they hire and whether or not, Tommy, there's any kind of indemnity language in that agreement.
Over the years when we had Christmas parties, firm Christmas parties where we invited people, we would not bartend ourselves. We would hire a professional bartender, and then we would pay a premium for him to be covered in the event he overserved a patron or served a minor. And you can buy $1 million worth of coverage for $2,500, $3,000.
Liquor liability. Yeah.
Liquor liability. In regards to bars or places that sell alcohol, you can buy dram shop coverage. You have to have a minimum if you're going to serve alcohol. But that minimum is only $100,000. It was $100,000 when I came to town 45 years ago. So that won't cover much if someone gets injured. The bar or the commercial entity is still liable. So I suggest buying more dram shop coverage for anybody that's in the bar business particularly.
All right, thank you very much. Stay with us. We'll have more of your viewer questions when the Siniard Law Show returns.
Harrison Brothers brings together the best of North Alabama. Our curated selection of local art, fine crafts, and gourmet food are great gifts for everyone on your shopping list. We carry books by local authors, and our toys pique a child's imagination. At Harrison Brothers, your purchases support artists and artisans right here in the Tennessee Valley. Located on Huntsville's Courthouse Square since 1897, Harrison Brothers is more than a store. It's a tradition.
Today's headlines, tonight's breaking news, and tomorrow's first alert.
Stream now, stream anytime, because your tomorrow starts tonight.
WAFF 48 News at 10, live and on demand on any device.
I got sandwiched between an 18-wheeler and a truck. During the accident, I lost my left leg. I chose Siniard Law because my granddad knew they had a great reputation. They were very knowledgeable. They were very sweet. We had a connection. They pretty much treated us like family. I would definitely recommend Siniard Law because they are caring and they will help you get what you deserve. If you've been injured, call Siniard Law.
Welcome back to the Siniard Law Show. If you would like to sign up for Siniard Law's newsletter, which provides free monthly legal tips, scan the QR code and be sure to sign up at siniardlaw.com. Now let's get back to you, our viewers, and your questions. Here's another email question from Jason. My wife and I live on Keel Mountain and we have a very steep driveway. We have a lot of packages delivered during the holidays, and when it's cold and wet outside, our driveway gets pretty slick. I put a sign at the top of the hill for the delivery drivers. Please use the steps to walk to our front door rather than walk down the driveway. If someone doesn't see that sign and they slip and injure themselves on my driveway, would the sign be enough to protect me?
So that person is really being smart and overly cautious, but they're not liable for inclement weather. So just because it's icy and cold, if someone fell in the driveway, they can't be said to be liable for that. Now,
even if it's at somebody's home?
Yes. Okay. Now take it to a commercial setting, let's say a Walmart, and it's icing around the entrance to Walmart, and they undertake to salt the area. They do it inadequately. I've had a case like this. There's a question mark as to whether or not they have a duty, but if they undertake the duty, they must do it competently and continuously, which is tough on businesses. So let's suppose they undertook to put pellets of salt in the entryway, and they did that at 7 in the morning. And by 4 in the afternoon, all that's gone, but it's still frozen. They're liable.
But Jason, you probably don't need the sign. It's good thinking on your part.
Yeah.
But it's just being nice. Like
it is. And the big thing on your own property is that the duty that you might have to warn, it doesn't have to do with open risks like this or inclement weather. It would be something that would be hidden and otherwise an invitee, a business invitee, like a delivery driver, wouldn't be aware of. Like if you had a missing step coming down to your front door,
Yes.
yeah, you need to warn about that.
So is it the same, like say that you go to somebody's house for a party and their front steps are slick and you're leaving the party and you slip and fall on their stairs?
Again, if that's something that the weather caused by God or the environment, you're not liable for that if you're a private person. You can be liable if you're a store owner under the terms that I set out previously.
Here's another email question from Austin. My wife got in a car wreck last week and her car needs to be repaired. The other driver's insurance company told my wife that they would put her into a rental, but only for 7 days, and that ends the day after Christmas. The body shop told us that her car wouldn't be ready until after the new year because of the holidays. My wife works for the hospital and has to have a car to drive to work. Is there anything I can do to make the insurance company extend her rental?
Barnes?
Yeah, you see this a lot where a liability carrier, so their insured is responsible for the wreck. In this case, somebody hit Austin's wife, where they'll put these arbitrary time limits out there.
Homemade.
As if the insurance company gets to decide what's reasonable. Well, we only rent cars for 7 days. The reality is that they're responsible for whatever damages arise out of the negligent conduct of their insured. And so, here it's very reasonable that a body shop would need to take more time to get to that vehicle due to the holidays. And what I would tell Austin is, go get documentation from the body shop. I mean, I think that you got an adjuster who's probably being ridiculous in this case, but they don't get to set an arbitrary time limit. If the car's not going to be ready till January 10, then that insurance company needs to be responsible for it. And if they're not, then you've got something called a loss of use claim.
Yeah, so the legal term for that area of damages is loss of use. You've lost the use of your vehicle, and they are obligated to pay for the entire loss of use, whether it be 7 days or 70 days. Now, they will bow up and say, oh no, it's only 15 days and $20 a day, which is ridiculous. So we find ourselves having to press on that issue all the time because they're trying not to pay what they're legally obligated to pay under the law. They're entitled to pay for the entire loss of use. So I had a case earlier this year where they went through one of these charades that you have 14 days and somebody that needed the car worked in Athens. And so they offered 14 days at $20. You can't rent a car, you can't rent a skateboard for $20 a day. And so we pressed that and ultimately awarded $4,130 for loss of use. Not all lawyers want to get their hands wet with that.
Right, that's a small amount.
But we say that comes with the territory. We don't even charge for a loss of use claim. We charge for the injury aspect, and we don't get paid unless and until we win or settle it in their favor.
Yeah. What happens when a mother of 4 or 5 children who's got a minivan, or maybe she's got a big SUV that she needs to tote those kids around, she's in this scenario and they tell her, we'll rent you a compact sedan, but we're not going to rent you a vehicle that's large enough for your kids. We've seen that scenario.
Oh yeah, a lot.
And they're just, they're looking for any way that they can to save $1, and they make you feel like the parameters and restrictions that they declare are the law. They're not.
They're not in the policy. They invent them.
Yeah.
And here's another crazy thing. If somebody hits you and damages your car, you're entitled to loss of use. But if they total your car,
yeah,
although you may still be on foot, you're not entitled to anything for loss of use. Isn't that baffling?
If you're a private car owner, you're not entitled to loss of use if your car's been totaled. Now, if you're if it's a commercial vehicle, and so if it's like a fleet vehicle, a truck, a delivery truck, something like that, and that car is totaled, that business can claim loss of use. But our Supreme Court has limited that scenario to businesses and commercial vehicles. It doesn't extend to private vehicles.
Kind of doesn't make sense.
There's another interesting area that very few people know about, and that is diminution of value.
Yeah.
Let's suppose that you're in a car wreck, it's the other party's fault, your car gets fixed, they pay a decent amount for loss of use. Now they've paid, the opposing carriers paid to fix the car. So they've paid you for the loss of use, they've paid you for the repairs. Are they off the hook? No, there's one other category. You have now a once wrecked car that you didn't previously
And that
have.
shows up, it follows you.
Carfax or whatever. So you have what's called a diminution in value. And so many people that don't have lawyers walk away from a chunk of
Leave money on the table.
Because if you've got say a 2024 new automobile and it's got $17,000 worth of damage, they pay to fix it. They give you money for your loss of use. The value of that car may drop 15, 20%. So with a car that costs $40,000, $50,000, you're talking about maybe $5,000 to $10,000.
Or more. I'll tell you a quick story. This is the only time this has ever happened, probably never happen again, but I had a client who drove a Ferrari, and it was a very expensive vehicle. A valet driver backed it over a curb and damaged the rear end. He had it repaired, but there was a diminution in value claim, and I think they paid like $60,000 in addition to the repair because of the drop in value on the Ferrari.
Wow.
So probably never see that again.
That's a world record.
Well, that was a smart Ferrari driver to know that he needed to get a lawyer.
Sure,
And it goes back to what we were talking about. If you don't know, somebody should come and talk to you all about it.
It doesn't cost anything to get information or advice. Like if you're throwing a Christmas party, and if you want to come sit down with us about what you should do to protect yourself, the door's open. We don't charge for that.
One other quick thing, what would happen if somebody got food poisoning
at a
Christmas party, or you had a potluck at the office?
So that's tough. The burden.
Is that a workers' compensation claim?
Maybe the burden of proof is on the injured or party made sick to prove by a certain standard of evidence that the food was contaminated by A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And proving where a germ comes from is just really hard. We do medical malpractice, and people that go in the hospital and have surgery and get an infection, which is a common complication, they say, well, I got it in the hospital during surgery. Will you take my case? Like, I got to prove where this germ came from, whether a family member brought it in. Staff is rampant in hospitals, but it's highly unlikely you're going to recover for an infection caused by
tough stuff to prove.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, thank you both very much for all this great information about holiday season injuries. And we look forward to hearing from you, our viewers, with your questions about any legal topic that you would like for the attorneys to tackle. You can email us at questions@siniardlaw.com, or you can call our voicemail line 844-7000-LAW. Join us next Sunday night after the news. And from all of us here at the Siniard Law Show, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas and happy and safe holidays. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
The preceding was a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys, paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys.